Hey guys, this is Brett the Tech. This week we're going to be talking about tank output pressures. Blah, 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 blah. Brett the Tech. So one of the most common questions we get in the shop all the time has to do with tank output pressures. Low pressure, mid pressure, high pressure. What's the difference? Which one do I use on my particular gun? And the best way to answer that is really to go over, all the different guns and explain the idiosyncrasies as to why you would choose one of the three for that particular gun. We can start off with high pressure. The only gun that really requires high pressure are spring and hammer guns. This is basically your low range paintball guns, A5s, Tippmann, Spiders, something of that nature. The reason why these require high pressure, the way they work, they're using high pressure air to recock the gun. So you have your high pressure air going through here. It's going to use that to push the ram back, compress the spring enough so that your sear can lock it into place, cocked and ready for it to shoot back forward again, push the valve out of the way, cycle the whole system, and make the paintball gun fire. So you need to have high pressure on these guns. If you use mid pressure, that's when you'll have that sputtering effect where it will just kind of go full auto and then not recock itself. So high pressure is definitely best for these. When it comes to your mid-range to high-end solenoid-driven paintball guns, you can use high pressure on some of these, but generally mid-pressure to low pressure is best, and that's just basically because they don't require high pressure to cock springs. They're using solenoids, little electromagnetic valves. They get pushed out of the way to operate the guns, so you just don't need that kind of force behind it in order to operate it. So it's just generally best to use mid-pressure, low pressure for these. And there are little reasons why you'd use mid-pressure or low pressure for different ones. So say Bob Longs, which are gas-through guns, all the new ones, your G6Rs, your Victories, your Onslaughts, Reptiles, all of those pretty much all have the same system for delivering air to the regulator and then through the gun. And there's one particular spot on this gun and on this family of guns is the reason why I would use, say, an SLP tank or possibly a mid-pressure tank. And the reason is the way this ASA is mounted to the frame. Since it's gas through, you basically have two pieces of metal that are sandwiched together with an O-ring in between. And when you have a high-pressure tank or a mid-pressure tank that's on the high end, like around 6 or 650, there's a possibility that when you dive on it, if you dive on it a little wrong and you torque your ASA just the tiniest bit, the high pressure air or high mid pressure air will give just enough force to push that O-ring a little out of the way, and then you'll basically just dump your entire tank. And if that happens during a game, that's unfortunate. You'll end up dumping your entire tank, and then you'll have to fix it off the field. Take a grip frame off, drop the ASA, put a new O-ring on, put it all back together, and then you're ready to play again. But that is why I would use low pressure, super low pressure with one of these. That doesn't apply to all gas-through guns, like the Lux. This is another true gas-through gun. You could use high pressure on this. They don't tend to blow body O-rings. They're built really well. They got giant screws connecting the ASA to the body, the way that the frame is connected to the body. There's a screw going this way, a screw going that way. It makes for a very sturdy mix. The only time you'll blow this O-ring tends to be just from where a bunch of paint gets left in the gun and the O-ring dissolves, and then you can blow that O-ring. When it comes to guns with a pipe, like the Eclipse series of the guns, these also could use high pressure if you really wanted to. Generally, mid-pressure to low pressure is best, mainly because you still have two O-rings here. If this pipe is just a little bit loose and you're running high pressure air through there's a chance that you could push the O-ring out of the way. Once again, you could cause a leak. They tend not to be tank dumping leaks, and with this, if you're in a game, you can generally just tighten this a little bit and you can stop the leak. Usually it doesn't just push the O-ring completely out of the way, so you're pretty safe with one of these. The only gun where I would definitely use low pressure on would be the MacDev family of guns, mainly because these guns run at 100 psi, the whole series of them, and that's really, really low for a paintball gun. I think it's the lowest for any paintball gun ever, just for the standard operating pressure in order to operate the gun. So the reason why I would use super low pressure to low pressure on these is because these components are built very delicately in order to get this gun down to 100 psi. And if there's a chance your regulator fails on you and you put line pressure into your gun, you want to make sure that line pressure is the least amount possible so you just don't damage the internals of the gun. So super low pressure would probably be best for these. And some of the Mac dev teams have noted when they're using the Clone 5s, if you use high pressure tanks on them, they tend to spike a little bit. So I would stay away from high pressure just in general on Mac devs. The one family of guns for the high end, mid range, and low end that it just kind of defies all of this are the Empire series, and that's because they regulate their pressure. Their inline regulator is in the ASA before the gas through system. So if you can put a high pressure tank on this, and the maximum amount of pressure that's going to go through this gun is around 200 psi because it's regulated before the gas through. So run any tank pressure on this. Really, it's not going to affect the way the gun shoots. You're not going to blow O-rings. It's a very sturdy regulator. I wouldn't worry about running too high of a pressure on it. But that pretty much covers it. Super low pressure, mid pressure tends to be best in general unless you're using a Springer. And then high pressure, the steel tanks, usually the entry level tanks are all high pressure. So that's what I would go out and get if I were you. Thanks for watching this week's video, guys. Feel free to comment below on things you want to see in future episodes. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you next time.